All right, with us now we have the nephew of Ahmed Timol, Imtiaz Cajee. Mr. Cajee, thank you for being with us in Pretoria, of course. And let's start with how you felt yesterday when Joao Rodrigues was finally charged.
Look, Francis, just to once again watch the testimony of my late grandmother is really painful and really emotional. But look, it was a day filled with mixed emotions, Francis. I mean, Joao Rodrigues returned to the crime scene where my uncle was killed in 1971, where he was charged and then taken to the police cells and then transported to the Johannesburg Magistrates Court. And this was the same court, where proceedings were held for the reopening of the Timol inquest in 1972. So a lot of mixed emotions, a lot of thoughts going back to my maternal grandparents to try and comprehend as to how they dealt with the situation, the loss of their beloved son, and 4 months later appearing in a court of law during the apartheid era, listening to security branch officers, one after the other, collaborating their own versions of events, and Magistrate de Villiers branding my grandmother a liar. So, filled with mixed emotions, but at the same time, a significant milestone that we've accomplished, that 9 months after Judge Palimote's ruling, we finally have seen that Joao Rodrigues has been charged, and we eagerly await, for court proceedings to unfold.
And even after all this time, given his age, when he stood there, I don't know if you were able to see him, was there a real sense of justice? Finally, the time has come.
Absolutely none, Francis. I mean, the squirming in front of the cameras, absolutely no sign of remorse. And I think this is one of the very few things that really perturbed me. To see this man at the age of 80, having absolutely no sign of any remorse, smiling in front of the cameras and absolutely enjoying the limelight, that was afforded to him. And hence, we feel eagerly that, that the full law must deal with him. And, he must have his day in court, and the legal processes must commence urgently.
Your family has already followed a long inquest. Often court cases disrupt lives. Do you have the time, the capacity? Will there be a presence from the family following this court case?
Most certainly. Look, like many other families, family members have accepted the fate that absolutely nothing will happen. In the Timol matter, my grandmother testified in 1996. She passed on almost 10 months later, and I think the family felt that, that this was the fate of God. But people like myself, with the support of the Foundation for Human Rights, Yasmin Suka, and the formidable team that she had assembled, have been very, very clear that, we're going to strive every single mile to ensure that justice gets served, and not just for the Timor family. One can't forget the families of Imam Harun, the Craddock Four, Solomon Modipani, Nicodemus Khawati, and many others, Francis, who all eagerly await, for justice to be served.
There are others, and there was a sense of fatigue, I think, after the TRC. There's been so many claims over the years that some people are not being prosecuted, some are being protected. This is tangible, though, and after 47 years, nobody knew how it would actually pan out, but somebody facing the courts. Does this feel very tangible? Does this feel like the tide is turning, like an example is being set here?
Yes, Francis, most certainly the tide is turning. I mean, if you heard the press conference yesterday that was held outside the Johannesburg Magistrates Court, where MEC Panyazi Lesufi and the NPA spokesperson made it very clear that this particular development on the Rodrigues matter has given a glimmer of hope to many other families, because there are many other perpetrators that are still living. We cannot blame all the heinous apartheid-era crimes only on Dirk Coetzee and Eugene de Kock. I mean, there were other generals, other superiors that were involved in the meticulous killing of many other activists, such as the Craddock Four, comrades and activists such as Joe Kabi in Zimbabwe. I mean, the Matola raid in Mozambique in January 1981. And hence, you know, the appeal goes out to seasoned journalists like Jacques Pau and Max Dupree, who must be commended for exposing apartheid-era hit squads, but must be challenged that what are they doing today in a democratic South Africa to assist many, many other families who don't have the capacity, who don't have the resources, and are desperately seeking assistance. And the challenge goes out to them to continue their pursuit to find the apartheid-era killers.
Are you in touch with other families?
For a number of years, Francis, the family of Nicodemus Khawati, Suleiman Babla Saluji, Dr. Hussein Hafiji, the family of Ashley Creel, the Kradok Four, and a number of other families, you know, all desperately seeking some sort of guidance and a glimmer of hope coming from our journey as a Timol family, and hoping that, you know, before many of them pass on, that they see some forms of justice and some forms of closure in tracking and locating these apartheid-era perpetrators, and hopefully finally seeing their day in court.
Mr. Cajee, I see you've also appealed to big business. Just tell us about that.
Francis, big business were pivotal in supporting the apartheid-era regime during the high tide of apartheid. And you know, it is really painful to see that big business selectively, depending on the individuals concerned, want to participate and support certain initiatives to raise funding and so forth. And here's a practical scenario where families throughout the length and breadth of this country don't have capacity, don't have resources, and we that have formed a coalition under the leadership of Yasmin Suka are desperately searching for funding. And you know, we can provide more funding details and more proposals to big business, but again, a direct challenge to them to come on board and not to be selective in making money available in democratic South Africa.
All right, thank you for your time this evening. That was Imtiaz Cajee, the nephew of Ahmed Timol.